All right, the Anti-Christian Southern Poverty Law Center, or as I call them, the Southern Impoverished Law Center, released their annual hate list yesterday. The SPLC has a long history of branding conservative and Christian organizations like the Family Research Council as hate groups, which even inspired a domestic terrorist, Floyd Corkins, to come into FRC about 11 years ago and attempt mass murder. He is now in prison following his conviction. Well, this year, the SPLC added many parents' rights groups to their hate list for their efforts to keep schools open, COVID, and to keep sexually explicit material away from children. I mean, we're talking about moms and dads doing what God created them to do, protect their children. And they're being labeled extremist, put on a hate map, and potentially being targeted by the loony left. Joining me now to discuss this is the head of one of these groups, Nicole Neily. She is the president and founder of Parents Defending Education. Nicole, welcome to Washington Watch. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
So let me just ask you your reaction to the Southern Poverty Law Center branding an organization of concerned parents as a group of extremists and putting you on a hate map.
I mean, we've been watching their mission creep for years and years and years, right? But the fact that we have gone out, we were labeled an anti-government organization, and we have worked through the government, as you have, right, to submit comments to the Federal Register, to file complaints with the Office of Civil Rights, to testify before Congress, and to actually raise concerns of, as the Constitution says, to petition our government for a redress of grievances. And that is, as it turns out, unwelcome. We saw that 2 years ago with the National School Boards Association, and now with these outside organizations.
Well, I'm wondering if, the White House reached out to the National School Boards Association asking for that letter. Look, we know that the Democrats in this administration works with the SPLC. I mean, this is an attempt, and this is not new for the SPLC.
Right.
Probably about 10 years ago up in Minnesota, they labeled another parents group that was concerned about the teaching tolerance, I think, that used to be their program or something like that. But they labeled them a hate group to try to marginalize and silence them.
Right. And it's funny because through our work, through our complaints we filed, through our lawsuits we filed against school districts, we've actually gotten districts, taxpayer-funded public school districts, to cease racial segregation programs. They'll do it in the guise of affinity groups or healing circles, but there are schools in 2022, 2023 that are segregating children on the basis of skin color. We have ended that practice, and that is apparently hateful. We have identified about 1,000 school districts across the country impacting 10 million children that have parental exclusion policies that explicitly say parents do not have a right to know their child's gender identity. That, again, is something that is hateful. So it's appalling. It really feels like we're through the looking glass almost.
So, Nicole, what do you think's behind this? Why do you think they're doing this?
Well, I mean, I think the first is they're chasing money, right? They have to keep coming up with new boogeymen, right? And so parents are scary. But at the end of the day, are we so scary? I mean, let's think about what we see doctors' offices telling families or telling children, what we see schools telling children is that families are the enemy, right? I mean, we have seen school districts putting up signs, "I'm your mom now." The default setting is a family is not safe because they might not be supportive of a child's gender or something else, but it's these districts, these taxpayer-funded people that are doing this, assuming that based on your Christian beliefs, based on, your political beliefs, that you are an unfit family. They don't believe in due process. They believe in tearing down these institutions.
But what we're seeing across the country is that parents are responding to where you are and what you're advocating, what we're advocating. Parents are concerned. That's why we see this tidal wave of parents getting involved. I think this is an act of desperation trying to intimidate parents into silence.
It is absolutely an attempt to intimidate donors, parents who are active. We saw, right, this National School Boards Association working with the Department of Justice. You and I know that in Washington, it is lightning speed for the Department of Justice to put out a memo within 4 days.
Oh, it doesn't happen.
Right,
it doesn't happen.
And through our public records request, we found out it was all pretextual. They had, as you said, been working with the Biden administration for weeks in advance to roll all of this out. We've seen the National Education Association every year at their annual meeting. They have voted to spend money investigating groups that oppose their political ideology. Last year, groups that opposed gender ideology. In 2021, groups that oppose their racial programs. And so this is just an attempt to chill and silence parents. But at the end of the day, we will not be silenced these are our children. We will fight to the death to protect our children.
So is this going to inspire parents, you think, to be even louder?
I think it will. I think this is a big slap in the face, and I think the Southern Poverty Law Center has grossly miscalculated, much like the National School Boards Association grossly miscalculated this.
See, I'm even thinking as we're talking here that organizations like yours and ours, that we need to start putting a little seal on our websites that, just like we do with the ECFA approved, that we are Southern Poverty Law Center disapproved, because that should be a badge of honor among conservatives.
Of who is actually doing real work, who is doing heavy lifting, who is actually speaking up and speaking out. I think about our founding fathers, right? If we hang together or we hang separately. And I will stop at no one to protect my children. And I know there are thousands of families, millions of families across the country that feel the same way.
Very quickly, Nicole, we're up against a break, but how can people find out more about your organization, about being a part of it?
Our website is defendinged.org. We have resources for parents. Parents can submit tips to us anonymously if they so choose about what's going on in their district, so we can expose it, because it's only through that we can affect change.
All right, folks, you heard that. That's an action item for you. Again, our government is not for spectators. It's for participants. Nicole, thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
Appreciate your work.